Indie artists, are you ready to take your music career to the next level? True Heart Records introduces its Digital Manager program. Navigate the music industry with professional guidance from their experienced team based in Evansville, Indiana. With a decade of experience managing the National Indie Fest brand in Austin, Texas, during South by Southwest, their team has produced shows and music festivals across the country. They are passionate about giving indie artists a hand up, no matter where you are in your career. Step up to the plate and hit a home run with True Heart Records, where passion and sound unite. Visit TrueHeartRec.com today or find them on Instagram and Facebook.
When can we get Boss Lady out of the attic? It's usually halfway through the week. So here she is, your host of Halfway Through the Week, Deb LaMotta.
And here I am, Deb LaMotta, and it is halfway through the week. Tonight's show is brought to you by the R2RB podcast series with Jeff Popka, CEO of True Heart Records, Indie Artist Spotlight with Aura Davis and the Sanctity of Crows, new releases from Asphalt Jungle Joe Booe and Michael Botte. Make sure you have your headphones on, grab a drink, and I'll be back after the music.
Lost, where will I find the secrets no one else is facing? Time will slip away, and still I hold on, clinging to these fading memories, with nothing more to give. This life that I've lived is fading. Once there was a time when all the world was at my fingers, moments left behind. A distant shade is all that lingers, brilliance turn to gray, and still I hold on, clinging to these fading memories, with nothing more to give. This life that I've lived is fading. Holding tightly to my dreams and memories, I can feel it as they slowly slip away. Once surrounded by familiar faces, now I struggle understanding all they say. Oh, who is this madman I see in the mirror? It's not me. And still I hold on, clinging to these fading memories, with nothing more to give.
Hi, this is Gav from UK indie rock band Dinky. You're listening to the Reel to Reel Broadcasting Network.
And I'm back. Welcome back. And we are halfway through the weekend. I hope everyone has had a decent week so far, because mine went left about a week ago. Think I'm back on track tonight. Keep your fingers crossed. Say a little prayer for me. You never know which way I'm going to end up. My goodness. And spring is struggling. I'm down here in Delaware, and it's been bouncing between, tonight it's 43 degrees and kind of getting up to 50 during the day, and then maybe a 70-degree day. I'm not complaining. I'm not really, but I just want that full spring with that warmth during the day. And all right, if you want to cool off at night, that's fine, but I know a lot of people join me in struggling through winter, and when you get that first feeling of spring, it's like, oh, finally brush off all the depression that you're feeling and get back out there. That first song up was Fading, Joe Booe and Steve Clapp Project. Steve Clapp Project and Joe Booe. Joe Booe's all over the place. In fact, I did an interview last night with Elaine J. and Tom McElman, and guess whose name came up? Joe Booe. It's all good. It is all good. It's a collaboration between the two of them. It's a killer progressive rock jam about facing the cognitive decline of age. I like how Joe described that song that way. It's a very powerful song in music and lyrics, and those of you that are up there somewhere, 50 and up, you have a little trouble with memory, have a little trouble with, a little ache or pain or here. I feel your pain because I'm older than that. And I certainly have my aches and pains and what have you. But, what are you going to do? As long as you keep moving, you keep going forward, you keep yourself busy, keep your mind busy, engaged, do whatever you're happy doing. If it's multiple things, then do it. It's the best way you can possibly be. So, that's it. That's it for age. Because I'm not aging, I'm stopping. Oh my gosh, next month is April. Yes, it's my birthday. It is my birthday next month. Last year, and I think I might do it this year as well, have a radio Wednesday night happy birthday to me. Why not? It's my birthday. It is my granddaughter's birthday. My dad's birthday was also in April. My ex's, he's in April. And then we have Easter. And my two youngest grandkids are going to be a year old at the end of March, and they're having their birthday party in April. It's like, oh my God, I don't know. Yep, that is all that is going on with me. And I've got a lot tonight. I've got a lot with great music, new releases, the spotlight on Aura Davis and the Sanctity of Crows. And then a great interview with Jeff Popka, CEO of True Heart Records. Last week I had a glitch and I got started late, so I wanted to take two of last week's show. So here I am. Thank you all that, text me and keep in contact with me and keep coming back. That's the important part. Keep coming back. You never know what I'm up to. Things are going on behind the scenes, right? Anyway, if you want to text me tonight, it's 302-272-5389. If you want to email me, if it's your first time listening, thank you for tuning in. If you are an indie artist and if you'd like to submit a short bio and an MP3 of your music, you can email me at info@r2rb.com, and I'll be back.
Meditating by the river, my breath is silent as a whisper. I bathe immersed in holy water and make my way up to the altar. I met this man while he was praying, so fully appreciating. He took me in and spoke so gracefully. He held my gaze and this he told me: gives it everything and all that I own. My soul, it sits upon these rocks and stones. I met this man while he was praying, soulfully appreciating. My teacher, tell me who you want me to be. He held my gaze and then he taught me to see. We sleepwalk to the mountain, but down in that we never stop. When we're called to awaken, we're taken straight to the top. We are ascending, but defending, who's sending us this big love. It is always descending and mending us from above. So fully, so fully. We sleepwalk to the mountain, but down in that we never stop. When we're called to awaken, we're taken straight to the top. We are ascending, but defending, who's sending us this big love. It is always descending and mending us from above.
Hey folks, this is Big Records recording artist Michael Botte from the Michael Botte Band, and you are listening to my music right here on R2RB.com.
That's right, Michael. That is an awesome song, soulfully appreciating. Michael says that it's an anthem about finding your true path, following it with love and respect, and filling your heart with gratitude and feeling the divine. It's about connecting with something bigger than ourselves and feeling that divine spark within. The driving guitars, catchy melodies, and uplifting lyrics create an infectious energy that's perfect for today's rock and pop audiences. And Michael, you're right. Absolutely. I love this song. The whole the meaning behind it, the way that you sing it, and definitely everything else combined with it. Maybe because I'm on my own little journey, spiritually, so maybe I'm connecting it with it that way. You never know, but I do definitely enjoyed it, and so soulfully appreciating Michael Botte. 2 great songs already. I mean, come on. I'm so lucky to be able to share all this music with you. And I hope that you follow, comment, share them, stream them. Joe Booe, Steve Clapp, Michael Botte, and all the others that I'll be spinning tonight. Aurora Davis, Sanctity of Crows. And coming up next, Asphalt Jungle with One Question, his newest release. One question. It's one question. What is that question? Have you heard the song? Have you listened to it? I mean, have you really listened to it? Have you heard? Did you hear it? You have to listen to it. I've listened to it several times. I always get the inside scoop. If you don't know who Asphalt Jungle is, C. Stevens. Modern hard rock, non-touring studio band based just outside of Chicago, founded by none other than C. Stevens. Asphalt Jungle has been coined as the new wave of American hair metal. So I had to go looking for a little review because there are many. C. Stevens has received many reviews on One Question. And so this one from, hold on, let me see. Where am I going? Cision de Metal. One question. Is a testament to Asphalt Jungle's dedication to creating rock music that doesn't try to fit into trends. Instead, it proudly carries the torch of its influences while delivering something fresh and unapologetically loud. The energy in this track is contagious. Make it impossible to sit still. Absolutely. But I want you to listen. You have to listen to the lyrics. You have to hear this message. It hits home on so many different levels. And I'll be back.
Band together, you hypocrites. This one's for you. But you don't care as long as you're not to blame. The way you bow, there is no doubt. But then again, it's something that you figure out. This thing you started, you can't be tamed. I'm broken hearted, it makes you act so insane. The situation, you play your games, and all this suffering now, who's the one to blame? Why do you always treat me this way? Why do you always say your name? Somebody please help me to explain. Can you answer me one question? One question. This party started is how you live, but everyone else has got to give. Align yourself behind the lines, then all you do is lie. Just in despair, it's all about. It's something that we all have to figure out. Believe yourself, believe your lies. This time you've done it and no one's on your side. Why do you always treat me this way? Why do you always say your name? Somebody please help me to explain. Can you answer me? Why do you always treat me this way? Why do you always say your name? Somebody please help me to explain. Can you answer me one question? One question.
Whoa. One question. Asphalt Jungle, C. Stevens. Please go check out the indie artists. All of them. Find them, like them, comment, share it, stream it, buy it. That's it. Real easy. Support them. I support them, they support me. That's the way it's supposed to work. That's it. Let me support you guys. Let me support the indie artists, and you support me. it's real simple. And yet, it's not being done. And that's for another show. All right. I got so much going on tonight. So first up in the indie artist spotlight is Sanctity of Crows. Ian had sent me an email a week or two back and was submitting and talking about his new album. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to, spin a song. So instead of just spinning one song, I'm going to tell you about The Sanctity of Crows, which is a solo music project by Ian Napier, who lives in Scotland. Instrumental music featuring guitars, keyboards, and drums, often complex, thematic, layered, soundscapey, cinematic prog, and post-rock clothing, whatever. Work on the debut album, Amidst the Gloom, began mid-2022. After intermittent progress, it was finally released in March 2024. Second album, Flowers of the New Dawn, a symphony for electric guitars in 6 movements, was released at the end of October 24. In December 2024, received the Newcomer of the Year award from Neil on the Radio, the Smart Radio 101. Ian's path started in 1970 as a teenager, experimenting with various instruments and composing melodies in his room. Despite a few modest attempts at performing and forming a band, life took over, as it does, and music was set aside for 40 years. After retiring in 2021, Ian reconnected with music, thank God, acquiring a Hagstrom Alvar electric guitar and experimenting with digital tools like Cubase. In March 2024, The Sanctity of Crows released their debut album, Amidst the Gloom, followed by a more cohesive, as I mentioned before, Flowers of the New Dawn, and created in under 2 months. Creativity has always been a cornerstone of Ian's life, spanning music, pottery, a software development career, and making music a fulfilling pursuit in retirement. Oh yeah, what an inspiring story of rediscovering passion later in life. And you all have heard me talk about reinventing myself and, the next project or the next something that I'm going to learn to do, which I am in the midst of starting another certification at, that's a whole nother story in itself too. Again, in Sanctity of Crows, in the end, it's just a beginning, which I just love. I took the last song off that album. Sometimes I have rhymes and reasons why I do things, just like indie artists have rhymes and reasons of the way they put things in order. But in the end, just a beginning. Sanctity of Crows. Ian is over in Scotland. It is now 1:30 a.m. But I did say, and I will be, putting this show out on YouTube tomorrow. So those of you that are in La La Land, not to fear, you'll be able to hear this tomorrow. Then when I come back, I will be starting the interview with Jeff, CEO of True Heart Records. And then I'm halfway through that interview, I'm going to cut into the next songs of Sanctity of Crows. That wasn't what I had in mind. So without further ado, Ian, I am so glad you contacted me. In the end, it's just a beginning. in the end, it's just a beginning, right? I just love that music. I just love that piece and the emotions that come from it. I mean, you just really have to quiet your mind and listen to it and hear the different pieces of it, and it just brings you to a different level. Kind of like what Michael was doing with his song. It just brings you to a whole different level. And we so need to be on different levels these days. So taking that from Sanctity of Crows, just kind of like let it sit with you. And please go find Sanctity of Crows on Bandcamp and iTunes and streaming on Spotify. Enjoy the music. Wednesday night show is I get to choose. I don't follow a genre. Sunday nights I try to follow a genre. But Wednesday nights and just the music that I've been getting lately, and with the, getting to know some of these indie artists, having conversations and finding out the stories behind these songs or the music and the influences, or where the influences came to create what they create. And I say this all the time, just simply amazes me, because that part of my brain doesn't work like that. So I'm so glad that you guys have that covered for me. So next up, Heart Records. That's right. I attempted a week, and thank you so much for tuning in again this week. Jeff Popka is the CEO of True Heart Records. We had a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. Halfway through the interview, I'm going to cut to Sanctity of Crows again, and that song will be This Wasn't What I Had in Mind. So enjoy, and I will be back as always. If you want to text me at 302-272-5389 if you have any questions, or email me at info@r2rb.com. I'll be back. Hi, and welcome to the R2RB podcast series. And today I have with me the CEO of True Heart Records, Jeff Popka. True Heart Records is an independent record label and an event management company based in Evansville, Indiana, but international in scope. True Heart Records wants to help educate and guide you. They are dedicated to uplifting emerging independent bands and artists, collaborating to provide guidance and opportunities for live performances and career advancement. At True Heart Records, their passion fuels everything they do, where passion and sound unite. So, Jeff, how the heck are you? And thank you for joining me.
I'm doing pretty good,
Good.
I'm doing a little traveling and getting some things done, but always working no matter what's going on.
Right, I know. You got that laptop in hand and phone in the other hand, and off we go.
That's exactly it.
I know how that goes. Oh my gosh. All right. So I'd like to ask two questions to get us warmed up. If you could have a conversation with a past or present music artist, who would it be and why?
Well, I could probably list off about 1,000, but I'll tell you, first off, I want to thank you, Deborah, for having me on. And it's a good thing that you do this for people and what you are doing. And I thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. That gave me time to think.
Okay. All right. But, now you're on the spot.
Yeah. So no, I really have two, and that's my issue. I can't decide between the two.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you two.
All right.
And then I'll tell you the reasons why.
All right.
So first off, Jackson Browne. Jackson Browne, I have been a fan of his since before I was a teenager.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I had Dr. My Eyes 45. I remember that.
Me too.
And I just kind of stayed with him my life, listening to him. And he's just such an exceptional songwriter.
Yeah.
And his creativity around that is it's amazing. He's an amazing performer. So I would definitely love to talk to him and explore how he created, what inspires him. I know a lot of it. He did take on a lot of issues, political issues and that as well.
Right.
I'm not so big on that, but he writes from his heart, and that's a big thing to me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And then the second one would be Tom Petty. And Tom Petty he was also a great songwriter, but his was more like an everyday man songwriter.
Yes.
People could relate to him, the words, and he always had great lines in his songs, and he always incorporated humor in whatever he did too. But Tom was just a fun guy, and I just think it'd been really cool to hang out with him.
I like those two. Absolutely. Yeah. I wouldn't mind sitting in on those conversations. All right. And the second question is, what's your favorite app on your phone?
It's got to be Apple Music because I wear it out.
Yeah, that seems to be a biggie. I've heard that one once or 10 times.
There's nothing I like better than sitting outside with my headphones, listening to Apple Music when it's nice and warm and sunny, and just staring at the lake that we live on and watching the wildlife. It's the most relaxing. It's probably music for me is probably like meditation for other people.
Yeah, agreed. And definitely here on the East Coast, we're finally getting into some warm weather. So I like that combination as well. All right. So you have over 25 years of nonstop dedication to indie music and the restaurant venue industry. So walk us through that and kind of tell us who Jeff Popka is.
So I've got a degree from Purdue in restaurant, hotel, institutional management. And I figured that's my career. You know, I would work my way up the corporate ladder. And I did. I spent 11 years right out of college with them. The restaurant business never lit me on fire. You know, it was just hard work and a lot of it, you know. But I do like to keep busy, and I was always juggling things in my head. So I always had a lot of things going on. So as I did that, one of my friends and his mom were going to open a restaurant in Fort Myers Beach, Florida, called Crab Louie's. And they asked me to come down and be their general manager. At first, I refused. I went down there. You know, I liked the concept, the location and all that, but I would have to relocate my family to do that at the time. That was a big factor. None of our kids were in school, though, at that point.
Oh, boy.
So that made it easier. But I first turned them down, but then they offered partial ownership to me. I really couldn't say no at that point.
Okay.
So I'm like, yeah, that's going to change things for us. So I accepted that. We went down there. We opened a restaurant right on the beach, right across from the Gulf. It was a restaurant bar, and we turned it into a music venue as well. And I started working with bands there. We ran that for a few years, sold that, put some money in our pocket, and then I turned around and went back home to Indiana from Fort Myers. I started dabbling in politics. And I became the superintendent of the Lake County Fairgrounds in Crown Point, Indiana.
Okay.
And there, I got to watch promoters that were putting on shows there. So I learned it from the ground up, watching what they were doing and mostly figuring out what they were doing wrong. So then I started doing it myself, and it just kind of grew and grew. We built some concert series that ran for a while. We met some great people like Jim Peterick and the Ides of March and Survivor. The Bodines played there, the Smithereens, Dave Mason, a lot of old timers. But so I kind of learned it backwards, if you think about it. So with the shows that I started working on were the larger ones, but then I started doing smaller ones and working with local and regional artists. And I really enjoyed that more.
The smaller venues, smaller artists.
Because it was more personal,
right.
And I really felt like I was helping them. And I did that for 11 years. It was kind of a trend, 11-11. But no matter what I've done, and after that, we moved out to California for a while. I got into internet radio. And then I was developing talk shows for 2 different radio stations, one out of Phoenix, one out of San Diego. And I was an executive producer developing these talk shows with authors and self-help gurus mostly. But then I'm like, why am I not doing this for myself with music? Then that's when I started Indie on Air.
And
So I used to do interviews like
Yep.
you're doing right now.
Okay.
I was really bad at it. When it started, I was really, really bad at it.
We learn from our mistakes.
Yes, trial and error.
It is. It is.
That expanded our contacts, my contacts
Uh-huh.
within the music business, because as all these bands are sending me music to play, and I'd interview them, and then I also interviewed music business people, and that's how I got to know some different record labels and different people as well.
Basically how I've grown as well I actually started with the women entrepreneur side, but once I started doing some indie music and then getting connected with those indie artists and getting the nerve up to finally ask for an interview, you connect the dots. So the next person you tag on to, and the next person sending you music, like you said, and here we are doing what we do.
Yep. Exactly. It's all about relationships, and how you get along with people. And if you connect with them, you stay in touch.
Exactly. Oh, absolutely. And that's where my contacts, as I just said, I've connected with one person and then the next one, sometimes, and now I'm to the point where I do have those reaching out to me for an interview. It's like, me? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what happened with me. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
Oh my God. So you've been a journalist as well, correct?
Yeah, I wrote as a journalist. I covered independent bands that, each month I would have the Reverb Nation Artists of the Month. What I would do is write articles on them and their music. I did that for 3 years for Ion Indie Magazine. And that was fun because I always like to write a little too.
Can I safely say that all the roads that you have traveled has led you to True Heart Records? And if I remember, you were retired, kind of, maybe, quote unquote.
I was semi-retired, and I am like the worst retired person in the world because my mind don't stop. I have to keep busy. When I told my wife I was just going to stop, because after COVID, which cost us a lot of concerts and tours that we had set up, just wiped out. And I had spent the whole previous year traveling the country, setting up these different things. It was just all gone, after we invested all this money doing that. And then I had personal medical issues. I had open heart surgery the next year. And I'm like, I'm retiring.
That's it.
Yeah. My wife's like, sure. And I said, no, I am. And I took 2 years off. And then I'm like, I can't do this. I can't sit around. I just can't do it. Called a couple of my friends and said, I'm going to start a new label. And that's how True Heart came around.
So when you were talking to your business partners, did you collaborate together to put down your fundamental ideas for True Heart Records, or did you come to the table with the basics of True Heart Records and then collaborate with your two other partners?
Yeah, well, one of my partners worked with me at Indie on Air Records. That was Tracy Mears. He was our production director. So getting him on board was really easy. We had already worked together for a while. Okay. Plus, we also managed a barbecue restaurant for a while in Evansville, Indiana. We worked together there as well. So as I said, I always got a lot going on.
I'm sitting here shaking my head. Oh my God.
And then Steve Wright from New Zealand, he came on board, and I've known Steve for years. He had released a song called Revolution Girl with his band Sugar Gliders. I was one of the first to play it in the United States.
Oh, wow.
And so we connected then. And then he eventually came to Texas Indie Fest in Austin, Texas during South by, and he performed at our festival. Me, him, and my director of operations, Rick Bedell at the time, we all roomed together and did the whole week. So we became really good friends. And so when he heard that I was doing this again, he reached out to me and said, hey, we talked. I'm like, well, there you go. Now we'll have an office in Evansville, Indiana, and we'll have one in Taupo, New Zealand.
That is so cool.
Again, relationships, networking, connecting. And Steve, he brings a lot to the table. He was a touring musician himself in the UK and in Australia. When we start putting our networks together, our connections together, it becomes pretty vast.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, especially when you become international. When did you launch True Heart Records?
True Heart Records, I launched in July of 24.
So you're relatively new.
When it comes to that, yeah, but
Yes.
not new to a label.
No. You have a few years behind you to set up this new label.
It was very important to me that I did it very different than everybody else.
Yes. So let's go there. So what's the mission of True Heart Records?
To help as many independent artists as we possibly can. They're all yelling in a crowd trying to get attention.
Yes.
They all have people trying to sell them things. They all have people telling them they don't have a chance because no one knows who they are. So they get beat down, and when all they really need is a lift up, a hand up. That's a big driving force of mine, is just to help elevate people. A lot of people take advantage of them, give them terrible advice. There's certain ways you got to go about things, and if they don't know how can they?
Exactly.
You're not going to college to get a degree in being a frontman in a band. You're on the streets earning it.
That's right. If you don't have people that can give you the knowledge that you need to succeed, then sometimes they're just, fighting this battle and it doesn't go anywhere. And I know so many of them get frustrated and just call it quits.
Exactly.
What type of indie artists do you work with? I mean, do you work with everybody? Somebody starting out, somebody in the middle?
I'll give advice to anybody about it where I can help them. There has to be an iota of talent for where they're at in their career.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just, anybody in a garage, we're going to say, oh yeah, come work with us. But if they're starting out, we can help them build a foundation and which they can build on, so they start out right, and that they treat their band or whatever as a business.
Yes.
And so they protect themselves, they set themselves up legally the correct way, so they don't make all the mistakes that I've seen so many bands make, and then they ultimately implode from those mistakes.
Absolutely. So what you do is, like you said, is different from what the other labels are doing, right?
Yeah, by far.
Yeah. And so I've done my little research, and I've done some reading, and what I've liked and what I've read about True Heart Records. You work with the indie artists and you give them the tools, like you said, that's going to help them with their career, as far as they're willing to go, because those who really want to be in it for the long haul can't be faint at heart, right? I mean, they really have to put all of themselves into it, or it's not going to work.
That's right. A lot of them don't realize it's going to be as tough as it is, especially if they're starting out. They're thinking, oh, this is fun. We're out here jamming and playing and partying and blah, 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 blah. And, that's only going to last so long and go so far. At some point you got to say, listen, I'm going to make something of this. I'm going to try and build a career out of it.
Yeah.
And then you got to take the steps to do so. And that's why we look at educating and empowering artists.
Absolutely. So you have the program called Digital Manager Program, and this is something new.
What I think it's groundbreaking, and this is why I created it, because we charge $35. $35 to be in the Digital Manager Program, and that basically covers administrative costs. That's it. And there is no contract. There's no contract involved. Everything's month to month on that. If you want to be able to give us a call, or if you want to get us on the line, we will advise you, answer your questions, but you're not tied into anything. You can step away. There's times of the year artists aren't performing, usually around holiday time, and that a lot of them aren't. Why are they paying somebody to manage them, or why are they paying for something they're not really using at those times? Because most labels now are about selling services. Either if you're not signed to a major label, you've got these other labels, but they're really just selling you things. Oh, we can do that for such and such $1. And it's hundreds of dollars that they charge. Well, with us, they can just call us up, and I could tell them, number one, this is how you do it. And if I teach you how to do it, you'll never have to pay anybody again to do that, such as distribution. No matter what it is, we can teach you how to do it, how to go around, how to build tour, and what to look out for, and things to consider, how to budget, things like that. That's what we do. And it's so different because we're not looking to make money off the backs of the artists. So basically, what I like to say is we take money out of the equation. We have ways of making money, but not at their expense. What we'd like to do is, because we do live events, we design festivals.
Yeah.
We host festivals. We do a lot of digital content, and we're working on a lot right now in that regard. I'm more interested with us is building creative content with the artists. Then we'll make our money together.
And that is such a different concept, like you said, from other labels. You are empowering these indie artists with education that I don't think they would get anywhere else on the level that you are offering, and for the minimal amount that you charge.
Right, because we don't want their money. Most indie bands or indie artists don't have a lot of money.
They don't. They're not making hundreds of dollars off the streaming platforms. They're not making hundreds of dollars off of, if they have a website, they're just not doing it if they're not doing the backside of working the business correctly.
Exactly.
And to get to that point, you need somebody like True Heart Records.
That's what I think.
That's what I thought too. All right. I hope you're enjoying Jeff from True Heart Records. And we are halfway through the interview. And so I just want to play another song by Sanctity of Crows. This wasn't what I had in mind. And we'll be back.
Hey, this is C. Stevens of Asphalt Jungle, and you're listening to Halfway Through the Week with your host, Deb LaMotta.
And I'm back, and that was Sanctity of Crows. This wasn't what I had in mind. Do we know what's in our minds? Do we know what's in other people's minds? Oh my gosh, I hope you're enjoying the music as much as I am. Sanctity of Crows over in Scotland. Find them, share them, follow them, like them, stream them, buy their music. All right, and we're back to True Heart Records. Good, we think alike. So there's a couple of components to this program. It's called One Sheet, and then, having a bio and a business plan. Why do you think those three components are so important to every single indie artist?
Because it's a basic foundation. How you present yourself to people says a lot. If you send a bio out and you write it in the back of your van when you're on the road, this is our bio, blah, 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 and it's just really choppy and poorly written, don't do it. Don't send it out, because it's not going to help you get any gigs. The same with the One Sheet. If it's not done professionally, and by professionally, I just mean certain standards where it looks good. You got good high quality photos. Your bio's included in that as well, but you want to make it exciting and appealing and why someone should hire you to play at their venue. And so many indie artists, they always minimize what they've done. And that's one thing, especially, when they're newer, a few years into it, they're like, well, I played in this state. I can give a good example. There was a band out of Kentucky. They go, we really haven't played much, outside of the region. And I said, really? And they go, yeah, we did a few shows in, I think it was Virginia and Tennessee and Indiana. And there was a couple other places. And I'm like, that shows that you've been on the road and you've been touring. That does not make you a regional band. So, it's frame of reference. But so many artists do that. They're like, well, I played here, but it really wasn't a big show and blah. You played there. Use it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's even on a regular resume. I mean, it's
exactly, yes.
If you've done it somewhere, it may not be something you do all the time, but yeah, put it on that resume.
Experience. You got touring experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I get emails from the indie artists submitting MP3s, and I do ask for a bio, many times I don't get that bio. I will get an MP3 with a short email, which is fine. I don't mind that. But I can see the difference in what you're speaking about right now. Somebody that either has had a mentor or has had somebody behind them, explaining the steps and how to take their business, their music to the next level, versus somebody that, still is their passion. I won't take that away from anybody, but I can see the difference. I'll get the MP3, but I won't even get the information. They haven't even sent the correct information for me to play it on the air. That's the other part. Indie artists sometimes, you need all that information if you want to get paid. I don't mind playing your music, but I want you to get paid as well. And that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, you start getting into metadata. Yeah. Tagging your music correctly.
Exactly. But I see the difference. Not that I turn anybody away, but I just, just in reference to what we're speaking about, I see the difference between those who have either been in the music industry for many years, or somebody starting out that has somebody to guide them along the way, versus somebody that's, loving it and has a passion, but hasn't really had anybody to help them along the way. But on the other side of that too, along with what you offer, I mean, sometimes just taking a minute to look things up online is all that you need. And then you need somebody like True Heart Records to take you to the next level with your business, and a business plan. Do you get the indie artists say to you, why do I need a business plan? I'm a musician.
It's really more of a development plan than a business plan. It's like, what are your goals? What are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? and how are we going to get there? And then we build that plan together. We review their stuff. One of the first things I look at when I talk to a potential new artist is their metrics. And I'm not looking for huge numbers like Universal or Sony would do.
Right.
I'm looking at their numbers to see, number one, that they're not buying likes and fans and supporters, that they're organic in growth, and that they engage with those fans. It's the engagement where they typically lose out on their metrics and they kind of plateau and they sit there. So a slower, sustained organic growth. You're always growing, whether it's 2 people, 10 people, 20 people every day. It doesn't have to be 10,000 next week. You just get there. You just every day you're taking steps. And as long as you're engaging, that's a huge part. That's where you're going to build, again, I'll go right back to it. That's where you're going to build relationships with your fans. Yeah. And they're going to be your biggest supporters.
And that's so important, is the fan base. And I know other indie artists can be your fan as well, but you really want a true fan base, just as you described, those that, you have taken the time to build this relationship with. Not just somebody, tagging you and following you, but somebody who truly is passionate about what you're passionate about, your music. So
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And everybody in a band should be participating in it. Everybody's in it together. And I know some musicians are like, well, I hate social media. And I'm just like, well, yeah, that's good. It might not help you.
Okay. We all have that love-hate relationship with social media, but that doesn't mean that you have to do the Facebook. There's Instagram and there's TikTok and what have you. And it really, sure. These days you can build a free website, but then you still need to kind of wrap back around to social media to get your fans to, come and check your website out. So it's that circle that you just have to keep the momentum going.
You have to keep it going, So usually one of the first things I look at is metrics, and then I put them on that path of organic growth. Then they start seeing their networks grow. Then all of a sudden they're meeting somebody like, hey, why don't we gig together? I see you're going to be here and I'm in this band over here, or my cousin's in a band. Talk to them. They can get you a gig and out of town. Next thing you know, you're touring around a certain region and it just grows. I mean, that's what we did with Indie On Air Records and Indie On Air. It grew into national tours. We had 3 national tours to South by Southwest to put on our Texas Indie Fest, which ran for 10 years during South by.
You and your partners have years of experience in putting this and putting this program together. So how has the indie artist been reacting to your program? Are they seeking you out? You seek them out? How does that part?
Most of them reach out to us. It's very few that I'll reach out and say, hey, we want to work with you. Mm-hmm. We don't chase people. Okay. We're kind of the mindset, if our vibration is of a certain level and our energy and yours is too, you'll find us. And most of them react like, no, this is too good to be true. We've gotten that a lot of times. And some of them you just walk away because they don't believe it, but that's choices. So
absolutely. And have any of the naysayers come back and say, I do want to give you a chance. I've talked to so-and-so and they've had, positive reactions to your program.
Yeah, there's, we've had some artists that contacted us and I explain all that to them and then I don't hear from them. All of a sudden, a month or 2 months down the road, here I am getting contacted again. They're like, hey, we're still interested. Because I encourage them to go out and talk to other companies. And all of a sudden they're learning, we got to pay $500 for what you're going to do for that. Yeah. That's absolutely right. Yeah. Because they're making money off of their backs. Until an artist believe that we're real in that regard, they think it's too good to be true.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't think of a better way to start out with having somebody like yourself and your partners helping indie artists, from where they're starting out to getting that fan base and getting their matrix correct and everything else. So, excuse me, I don't know why anybody wouldn't at least want to give you a try.
There's no risk because there's no contract.
Right.
So it's
There's that. That's such a big
you
thing.
lost $35. I bet you lost $35 out drinking one night.
But that's so true. My gosh. Like I've said, you've said yourself, you have done so many things in your career. You're the creator and executive producer for 3 national music tours: South by Southwest, the Abolitionist Tour, the Ascension Tour, the Revolution Tour. Are you still part of all that?
The tour? No. So those tours, like the Abolitionist Tour was in 2011. The Ascension Tour was in 2012. The Revolution Tour really featured an artist that came over from London, and he toured the country here, and I set him up with a bunch of gigs, and then it culminated with the artists that we worked with on those tours and everybody going to Austin and to play at Texas Indie Fest. That was 2015, I believe.
Wow.
So those things were like one and done, but they were all part of Texas Indie Fest and building that brand.
Okay.
Which Texas Indie Fest, like I said, ran for 10 years, but we took the Indie Fest brand and branched that out into festivals, which we did across the country in different
Amazing.
states.
You were and still are nonstop.
Yes.
What's your take on the indie artist community presently?
It's the same as it ever was. There's hidden gems everywhere.
Yeah.
There's so many artists, there's so many different genres that are so good that should be all over the radio, and they're not. And I say radio, but that all over the platforms, I should say nowadays. But
right.
They're not, because they cannot get airplay like that, because the labels are conglomerates, and the conglomerates bought up the radio stations. So the same music is played in Miami that's played in Seattle, which takes me to where Seattle was probably the last region that had authentic sound coming out of it at a mainstream level, and that was grunge. Since then, all these radio stations, they just bought them all. Kind of like what Live Nation's done with venues.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the music venues, they buy them all.
Right.
Also, the ticket prices are higher. Just
insane.
Everything goes up because they're just huge companies buying up everything.
Yeah.
So give me the independence anytime. And
Agreed.
Corporations are just about numbers and money.
That's the bottom line. That is their greedy bottom line. Absolutely, 100%. So let me ask you this question, and you don't have to answer, but what do you see? What do you see in the community that indie artists are doing that doesn't necessarily help their careers, that maybe they should give a second thought to?
Well, number one, I said engagement when you're on social media. A lot of them just shy away from that. That's a big thing to try to get them over that hump. You got to work it, and you got to do it every day. It's not that hard to make a post. Just do it, engage, and then talk when someone asks you a question.
Yeah.
Answer them.
Yeah.
Don't leave them hanging.
Right.
And and also minimizing themselves. Because they compare themselves to the larger successful artists that are touring. They say,
right.
"Oh, well, how can I ever do that?" And well, maybe you can't do that, but maybe you can build a great career in music.
Yeah.
You don't have to work retail,
right,
or in the restaurant business. Things you don't have to do, but you just believe in yourself. Otherwise, you're defeating yourself before you even begin.
Yeah. Is there one event that has stood out in your career? I know that's got to be a hard one.
Okay, now, let's talk about reasons why it stood out. Good, bad, ugly.
What was the craziest moment in your career?
Oh my gosh. Probably at one Texas Indie Fest. We ran, as we got towards the latter years of that festival run, we were doing 4 nights in Austin. We had like 40 plus bands. And really the venue was a small little whiskey bar called the Red Shed Tavern, located away from downtown in the Madness. We had this backyard beer garden with a red shed that had a stage built in it. It was really cool. But, one night there were storms everywhere,
Oh, wow.
all over Austin. It rolled through. They shut down 6th Street because of the storms and the lightning and that. So we had to shut it down. We kept going because we moved everything inside this little venue. And while we were doing that, Scott Weiland and his band, the Wildabouts, came in and they hung out with us for hours inside, watching and listening to everybody had to play acoustic inside that could. It was all fly by night.
Oh my God.
But here we are with these big artists, and we ended up all hanging out, just drinking beer together. And
How cool is that?
it turned from this festival to a house party with Scott Weiland.
Like, I mean, that doesn't always happen. Oh my God, that is crazy. I like that. Well, I'm glad I reworded that question for you.
All right.
So I know I know one of the questions I usually ask, but you've given so much. Is there any other advice that you would give indie artists who's just starting out? What advice would you give them?
Surround yourself with good people that truly believe in you, that don't want anything. And create, and always work your craft. Always work your craft. Always improve. If you're serious about it, work at it. You're going to make yourself better. The more you know, the better you'll do. And remember to treat people the same as you're going up as when you're coming down, because you're going to see the same people.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a very informative conversation. And again, it's True Heart Records. And the program that we were talking and have been talking about is the Digital Manager Program. Jeff and his team are more than happy to hear from you. So how can they get in touch with you?
www.trueheartrec.com.
All right.
Go to the website, learn a bit about us. You'll probably get a feel of what we're about when you go there. Watch for content that we're going to be putting out. We're doing a virtual Indie Fest this coming Friday. I know that's going to happen before this comes out. It'll be on YouTube and Facebook Live. So it'll be on our YouTube channel. It'll also be cleaned up from the live broadcast. We got some great things going on. We got bands from across the U.S., but also from Oslo, Norway, Taupo, New Zealand. We have an Irish artist that might be on there from Cork, Ireland.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I actually have that on my calendar. So do you have those often, or is that something you started up just recently?
This is our first one.
This is your first one.
We hired a professional production team, so it should be TV quality. At least that's what I'm looking for. So this could be one of my bad experiences if it's not.
Or let's just call it a learning experience.
There you go.
We just learn from all those tiny mistakes. I'm looking forward to it. I think that's pretty cool. And I just think that's something, another avenue that, you and True Heart Records offer.
Yeah. And, what we're doing too, we're showing that different people from different places and different genres can work together to help each other. Music is the bridge that brings people together.
I like that. And on that note, Jeff, thank you so much for being a guest on R2RB podcast series.
Thank you so much, Deborah.
You are welcome.
Hi, everyone. This is Ora Davis, and you're listening to Halfway Through the Week with the lovely Deb Lamata.
And I'm back. I hope you enjoyed the True Heart Records interview with Jeff Popka, the CEO. If you have a chance to go check them out at trueheartrec.com. And that station ID was Aura Davis. She is up next in the Indie Artist Spotlight here on Halfway Through the Week on r2rb.com. But before we head off to Aura, we're going to finish up with Sanctity of Crows. Sanctity of Crows is over in Scotland. So go find Sanctity of Crows, follow them, like them. Enjoy the music, stream it, buy it. This song, Pray, Tell. And I'll be back.
This is Eric Baker, otherwise known as Barker, and you are listening to Out of the Attic, live from Delaware, with our host, Deb Lamata.
R2 R B R2 R
All right, Ian, thank you for getting me hooked on the Sanctity of Crows. Next up in the indie artist spotlight is Aura Davis. Aura, a rising rock pop artist, has quickly gained recognition for her powerful voice, emotive lyrics, and compelling stage presence. Her music, a blend of melancholy and energy, has drawn comparisons to Stevie Nicks and Taylor Momsen. Davis's debut album, crafted during London sessions, has been a major milestone, with hits like Hearts Don't Bend reaching number 6 on the UK pop charts and the award-winning Lawless Land. Her success is reflected in over 1 million streams. Aura Davis's music explores themes of raw emotion, resilience, and personal storytelling. Her lyrics often delve into melancholy, paired with fierce energy, creating a blend of vulnerability and strength. Davis's songs reflect her experiences, offering listeners a glimpse into her world through authentic and evocative storytelling. All right, ready? Because I am. I've listened to these songs, and I know you're going to like them too. Don't go anywhere. Up next, Aura Davis, Haunt Me.
Hey guys, this is Aura. Just a quick shout out to say thank you for loving music as much as we do. You make this all possible. Stay amazing. We love you. You can find me on auradavis.com or on all the socials at This Is Aura Davis. See you there.
Tragically
Yeah, Aura Davis, Unbroken. Wow. Her music resonates with fans by channeling universal emotions, making her artistry relatable and impactful, you think? In 2023, Davis toured Europe, performing more than 60 shows with stripped-down acoustic sets. Now, with a full band supporting her, she's set to deliver an even more dynamic live experience, inviting fans to join her as her career continues to soar. And this quote I saw over while I was looking things up: Aura is a stray soul from the birthplace of rock and roll. Absolutely. My God. And she's like tours all over. Where's her tours coming up? Tours all over. May 6th, she'll be in Switzerland. I gotta get my passport up to date. And then find somebody to fly me over. My God. In just 3 short years, Aura Davis has forged a distinctive path in the music industry. I would say so. Right? Leaving an indelible mark with her unique sound and powerful voice. Yeah, oh my God, I've enjoyed listening to her music as well. Alright, well, just closed the wrong window, as long as I didn't disconnect myself. Alright, What You Love, Aura Davis, closing us out tonight, and I'll be back. Well, I don't know about you, but I like how this night ended. What you love, Aura Davis. Aura Davis, thank you. Sanctity of Crows, Asphalt Jungle, Joe Booe, Michael Botte. I enjoyed all these new releases tonight. I hope you did too. Steve Clapp Project. Didn't want to forget. I'm sorry. Make sure I got everybody. And of course, True Heart Records. Just one more. New York Weekly had this to say about Aura. Aura's determination and passion for music have propelled her to the forefront of the industry. So please go find Aura and everybody else that I had the opportunity to play tonight. Like them, share them, comment, stream them, buy their music, support them, support indie artists, support each other, support me. Yeah, I'm just a little fish in a big pond, but you know, it all adds up for the indie artists, you know, interviews, airtime on online radio, airtime on other radio. You know, it helps you. I like doing this, you know, but we have to support each other. So I hope you are out there supporting your fellow indie artist. Hope you have enjoyed tonight's show. I will be back Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Out of the Attic Live from Delaware. It is the Unexplained Discovery Paranormal Investigation team will be joining me. It is the 5th Sunday of this month. We were a little off ourselves with which Saturday we were doing it. Sunday we would be doing it, but it is this Sunday. Tune in. If you have a chance, go join the group over at Unexplained Discoveries. You just never know what the conversation's going to be about, but we do have a video up over on Unexplained, so a lot of good stuff going on. I also want to give a shout out to Sintel of Sintel Gospel Music. He has been under the weather, and I hope you are feeling better. I didn't get a chance to check in with him today, but if you all have a chance to go check out his page and give him some well wishes, because yeah, he works 2 jobs, does his music, helps his mom. Great guy. All these indie artists are. But that's about it, folks. Again, thank you for tuning in. I will be back, as I said, on Sunday. And next week, I will be... Hold on, I'll let you know what we're doing next week. Gotta flip the page. Oh, I know. Oh, my gosh, it's Jack Brody next week. You gotta go find him, too. Jack Brody also over in Scotland. Can't wait to share that interview with you as well. Well, another great indie artist and also a mental health advocate. So lots going on. I've got more interviews that I've been editing, more interviews coming up. I go on vacation for a couple weeks in April, so just keep checking back. I'll keep you updated. Go check me out on Facebook. Everybody have a good night. I have talked enough tonight. Peace out.
Hi, this is Gav from UK indie rock band Dinky. You're listening to the Reel to Reel Broadcasting Network.